Senator, I know you were in the classified Gang of Eight briefing that was held on Thursday on Russia allegedly paying the Taliban to kill U.S. troops. I'm wondering if you can comment on the veracity of the reporting and the intelligence on this story, on these reports. And are Republicans quietly shocked and horrified? I can't think of something worse that could come to pass at this point in terms of, our troops being put in danger and no reaction from the president and top Republicans. Is there any basis that these reports are weak in their intelligence?
Well, I can't comment on the Gang of Eight. As you know, it's classified.
Right.
I can tell you this. President Trump, from day one, has shown such weakness to Vladimir Putin that an autocratic, power-grabbing man like him will constantly take advantage. And he has been doing that through the years. Right now, with everything going on, with Russia being one of the biggest foes we have, Trump calls for them joining the G8. Making the G7, G8 and adding them in, when every one of the other countries says, and no way. I was going to use a little Brooklynese there, but I won't. And no way with a middle initial. And it's just amazing. His weakness to dictators. He was played like a fool by Kim Jong-un. He was played like a fool by Putin. He's being played like a fool with China right now. And this is the this president is the weakest president, despite all his bluster and macho man, and he won't wear a mask, and that's supposed to make him a big tough guy. He is the weakest president we have ever had in the history of the United States on foreign policy, where he's caved to Putin, caved to Xi, caved to every dictator, who are his buddies, people like Erdogan and Orban, and on the domestic front, where he is incapable of dealing with the most significant health and economic crisis we have had. And, they find these little things. Yesterday, the numbers, the unemployment numbers went down. But the two most important numbers yesterday, Nika, were 54,000, the number of new cases. It's now even a little higher today. And 1.4 million, the number of people who applied for unemployment insurance. Permanent unemployment is going up. Probably temporary unemployment will go up as all these states that were so macho and saying we're not obeying any rules and we're not doing social distancing, again, following Trump's lead, are now going to have to start laying off people and closing. He's heard what the governor of Texas and Florida did the other day. And things are going to get worse, even worse, because of this weakness on domestic and foreign policy. We have never had a president so over his head and so in his own little world where all he's looking at is a mirror and what he thinks affects him.
Susan Del Percio.
It's beyond words. I'm sorry to go on like this, but it's appalling. It's not just political. People are losing their jobs. People are dying. People who's labored my dad was a small businessman. I know how they struggle, who labor for decades to build the business. They're going out of business. It's all, and much of it didn't have to happen. It happened because of his incompetence.
Senator, I happen to agree that money to state and local governments probably won't see the light until Republicans start feeling the pain in their states like Arizona, Texas, and Florida. And unemployment, the things that we're talking about, education, all of these things are very important. But my question to you is, one of the things that's coming up in 4 months and that we're celebrating tomorrow is our country's independence and our democratic elections. And will there be money there in that bill, whatever gets passed, to help with mail-in ballots and voting? Because as we saw in New York, your home state, it was rough going. We won't even be able to open ballots until next week for some of these elections. Right. So what are we doing, and knowing that there's such an issue with security, to make sure that our election this year is secure and there's money there for the post office, frankly?
Okay, in the COVID-4 bill, the HEROES bill that the House passed, and Senate Democrats work very closely with the House. There are two things that answer both your questions. There's $3.6 billion to help make our elections work during these COVID times. Everyone will get a mail ballot and can send in that mail ballot. And the federal government will actually pay the postage cost and everything else, as well as money for the states to do a better job at setting up their election boards and dealing with people, because you're going to need workers and you're going to need social distancing, but people who want to show up and vote on their own. As we saw in these recent elections, not everybody wants to vote by mail, and we should give them the choice. Voting is sacred. I might say that our Republican friends, led by Mitch McConnell, are opposing this. They want as few people to vote as possible. Now, no one even knows who it affects more, Democrats or Republicans voting by mail. But their credo has been to restrict voting, to stop voting. In Alabama, listen to this, to send in a mail ballot now, you need a notary to sign it, your absentee ballot. Why do you think that's done? To stop poor people and people of color from voting. They're not going to pay for a notary. It's almost like a poll tax in a certain sense. We get rid of those things in the COVID-4 bill, and we hope our Republican friends won't oppose it, but if passed as prologue, they're going to, but we're going to fight to keep that in. It's one of our highest priorities. In addition, we give a grant, I believe it's of $40 billion, maybe 25, I'm not sure the exact number ended up, for the post office. Not a loan, but a grant, and the postal authorities tell us that will be enough to keep them going and let them deliver the ballots that will be mailed. We, make sure they're postmarked, so you see that everybody who's postmarked before Election Day gets counted, even if it takes a little longer. And so we Democrats are dealing with both the issues we talked about. We're being opposed. A lot of Republicans, including Trump, want to see the end to the post office. They don't have a plan to replace it, and certainly it'll certainly mess up our elections to a fare thee well if the post office is on its, is hobbling along when we get to September, October, early November. So we're dealing with both of these. We're going to stay strong on them. And again, I think, when we've had these previous COVID negotiations, Republicans have started with a very small, stingy, and limited package. We Democrats in the Senate on COVID 2, 3, and 3.5 held out and said, no, we're not doing that. And they eventually succumbed to us for 3 reasons. Number one, because we're the stronger playing field. In other words, the Republican mantra, let the private sector do it, just doesn't work when you have a huge health and economic crisis close to a depression. Number two, because Mnuchin particularly, and maybe some people in the Trump administration say, hey, Mr. President, if we don't have this, the economy will be in the Great Depression in November, and you can kiss your presidency goodbye. We're headed in that direction already in both ways. And third, because some of these Republican senators who are up for re-election and sinking just like Trump in the polls because they so embrace Trump and they're afraid to leave him, even though they need voters in the middle, we'll go whisper to McConnell, please do this, because they know their states need the help and the economy will be worse. So I predict we're going to do very well in this bill if we hang together as a party, which we have, and force the Republicans to do the kinds of things on elections, post office, and other things that are so needed.
Senator Chuck Schumer, thank you very much for being on the show this morning, and happy 4th. Enjoy the weekend. Still ahead, as some airlines face criticism for starting to fill middle seats again, one pushes back, saying blocking middle seats is a PR move, not a safety strategy. Plus, 9 more NBA players have tested positive for the coronavirus. From the future of flying to how sports leagues reopen to tips for the 4th of July weekend, how to stay safe. We have a lot to go through with Dr. Lena Wen next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.